Hey everyone, greetings. It's Naomi Wolf. Loki is on my lap. He loves to curl up on my lap during podcasts. And I'm so excited, I think maybe for the first time, to have a good friend, I would say an extended family member, um, Drew Allen on our show. Welcome, Drew Allen.
Hey, Dr. Wolf, thanks. I know it's funny. It's like a long time coming. It's crazy that neither of us, me included, have like organized it before, but I hope people understand. I have such great respect and admiration for you, and you are truly just a wonderful friend and a bright, shining light.
Oh, oh, that's so sweet. Well, we feel that way about you and in yours. So you're also an incredibly multi-talented person. You've accomplished something pretty huge. Drew Allen is the author of For Christ and Country, and that's on a bestseller list on Amazon right now, going through drama even as we speak. And he'll share the subtitle in just a moment. And he's also the host of the Drew Allen Show, which we are proud on the Daily Clout Network to showcase and distribute and stream. And to so many important things, news commentator, father of the most beautiful, adorable children, in addition to one other person's incredibly beautiful and adorable children. Actually, this is getting me in trouble because I have like four or five good friends of your generation, and they all send me the most adorable children pictures. It's like, that's the cutest baby. Wait, no, that's also the cutest baby. But yours actually are the cutest babies, in addition to someone unnamed who
I'll tell them
whom you know.
you said
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Thank you. So let's get to please do me a great favor and forgive me for not having it in front of me. The dog is pinning me down. What is the subtitle of For Christ and Country? And then let's get into that book.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk.
Ugh, right. Um, okay, so I wanted you on for a number of reasons. The book is already making waves, generating controversy, and you got banned by Amazon and then kind of weirdly, readmitted. And you've run into other publication hurdles. First, tell me the thesis of the book, why you decided to write it, and then tell me about the challenges that you faced.
Well, the thesis began not even as a book. It was just that I was so profoundly impacted by Charlie Kirk's assassination. And, the older you get, right, the more people die. That's just a
Mm,
reality of life. And so I'm 38 and I've experienced, people die around me. And, one of the temporary things that happens, I think, when people die is you momentarily kind of inch towards transformation in your life, right? Because you realize life is fleeting. The next day is not guaranteed. And so
mm,
you ask, am I doing enough? Am I living my life to the fullest potential? Am I really, but it's always fleeting. So that would happen. And then, a week later, I'm just back in the rut. I don't really transform like
mm,
that incident in my life should. I hope it would. And then it did happen with Charlie. I mean, I'm not the same person I
mm.
was. The reality is there's Drew Allen before Charlie Kirk died, and there's Drew Allen after Charlie Kirk
Wow.
died. And
Wow.
and so the book started with trying to process those feelings and emotions. And as I dug into Charlie more, and just as a aside, I did not know Charlie personally at all, but I was his publicist along with AJ Rice for his second to last book, Right Wing Revolution. And so I had a little bit of a professional association. Um, and then I was just looking at the environment that led to it, and kind of like a journalist, sort of. I don't want this to happen anymore. It was so tragic. And, I think that the reason it hit so hard is because it was so close to home too,
Mm.
Naomi.
Yeah.
Like, because my girl, I have two girls. Charlie had a son and daughter, and they're basically the same age. I've got an
Oh,
almost
wow.
3-year old, and my
Okay.
my youngest turns 1 tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday too.
Yeah. So, so I went on this quest. Why is this violence happening?
Mm,
And here's the thing: what was even more shocking than Charlie Kirk's actual assassination, I think, was the response from people in this country
yeah.
after he died. And that was the celebration, the jubilation about a husband and father being taken from them. And it reminded me, honestly, of like 9/11, because
Mm,
there were two comparisons I made to 9/11 in the book, which one is I think that it woke a lot of people up, young people, old people, all sorts of people, to the fact that, you know, there's a price to be paid and a great risk if you are a conservative, right-leaning truth teller in America.
Mhm.
And, 9/11, it kind of woke us up to this idea that, hey, these oceans and geography are no longer sufficient to protect us,
Right, right,
and then after 9/11, I remember you had, you know, groups of Muslims in the Middle East that were celebrating, handing out candy, dancing in the street
yeah,
over the thousands of lives that were lost on that day. And then after Charlie's death on 9/10, you had the same reaction from many
mhm,
people.
mhm.
And that wasn't abroad. That was right here at home. These were people, Naomi, that I had gone to high school with, that I was seeing posting these things. And of course, there were many other more prominent people, Democrat politicians like
Wait,
Ilhan Omar.
sorry to jump
Yeah,
in. Drew, you're saying people you went to high school with were posting celebratory comments about the murder of Charlie Kirk?
yeah,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
yeah.
And did you go to a kind of normal high school? Like, was there something
Well,
fringe about it?
it's the interesting about me is I mean, where I am politically. I wear it on my sleeve, right? Kind of like my faith. And no, I went to an all male college preparatory school, a Jesuit school,
Wow.
and it was left leaning. And in
Right,
retrospect, it was quite left leaning when I look at some
right,
of the things I was taught at the time. And all my friend groups, people should know about me. Um, were always Democrats.
right.
Like everywhere. I mean, yeah, I'm conservative. I've always been conservative. I wasn't like a Reagan who, converted or anything like
Hmm,
that. But
hmm.
high school, all my friends were Democrats. I worked in fashion. I lived in Milan, Italy, working for
Hmm.
Marc Jacobs. Everyone was obviously left leaning. I
Right.
worked in Hollywood. I was an actor. That was my training. That's what I did in New
Wow.
York City and then back in
Right,
LA. So
right,
obviously Hollywood's not a conservative place. So
right,
that's the world I come from. I've always been
right.
around these people, and they I'm not friends with them, any of them actually anymore, and it's not really because I chose that.
Right. But the Jesuits presumably would not have taught those kids, no matter how left-leaning everyone was at the time, to celebrate the murder of a father and husband, right?
No, no, and I mean, I can observe, and I make this point in the book too, because again, I'm trying to understand how this could happen. And a lot of this book is very personal. It's drawn from
Mm,
personal experience, right? So all these close friends I've had, childhood friends, even in 2016 when I supported Trump, right?
mhm,
They were still friends with me.
mhm.
And then I think, and by 2020 though, they couldn't abide it anymore over the
Wow.
COVID stuff.
Right.
And so that was a double whammy. And they
Sorry.
excommunicated me. And
We've never talked about this. I'm so sorry.
no, well, it's fine. Now I got friends like you. What do I need them for? You know? Well, so like there was a radicalization that took place between 2016 and 2020 that changed my friends, not
Mhm,
me.
mhm,
And I think that it goes back to this constant hyperbole, this rhetoric, right, that ramped up. I was considered, they
mm.
use the word like genocidal because, you called out. I mean, please, I can't even, I don't hold a candle to what you went through because you were one of the most prominent warriors for justice as it
Thank
related
you.
to truth with COVID. But I got my own little taste of it, and for
Sure, of
me, the
course.
repercussion was not Great Britain coming after me and trying to destroy my life like you. It was just friends of mine that couldn't be
Mhm.
friends. So that constant
Still
drumbeat
bad.
of hatred,
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
it changed
What
people on the
what did
left.
they call you? Can we be a little specific? So this book, just to step back and big
Yeah.
picture it a little bit, is this book about like using or making use of, I shouldn't say using, or reacting to maybe the assassination of Charlie Kirk or the murder of Charlie Kirk for a deeper question about how have we come to this, the hatefulness of language, especially from the left, the murderousness of language, what happened to these people. Is that the thesis of your book, or is that the journey
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah,
describing?
that's one of the profound theses, which is that, we need to be courageous enough to um acknowledge that the rhetoric on the left has real world consequences that are violence. And so, obviously we have a right to free speech that I protect in this country,
Hmm,
but all of our rights demand, a certain amount of responsibility, right?
hmm,
That's the double-edged sword of the greatness of America is that yeah, we have all of these wonderful God-given rights,
Mm-hmm.
and the individual has to, take care of those rights and act responsibly.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there's been too many instances of this. And here's the thing: after every proven example of left-wing violence
Mm-hmm.
that can be traced directly back to at least the left-wing ideology that's being promoted on media and by Democrat politicians,
Mm-hmm.
they never ever look in the mirror and have a moment to say, hey, let's do a little self-reflection. Maybe we shouldn't call Donald Trump Nazi, Hitler, Mussolini, a threat to democracy anymore, because it's not true. And obviously it's inciting acts of violence, real world violence against Trump and others.
Mm-hmm. Huh, you've said so much. Let's drill down just a bit. What were some of the things that your formerly nice, or at least civil, when you disagreed, friends were saying online about you after 2020?
Well, my best friend at the time, who was my best man in my wedding,
Oof.
I had one final.
There is a worldwide rush for gold right now and precious metals. China is buying gold. There are rumors that the Federal Reserve will be using gold to pay off federal debt, or the federal government will be using gold to pay off federal debt. Um, Famous investors are buying gold. And there's a movement away from the dollar worldwide. And you can see that there are warning signs in the economy that appeared before the Great Depression in 2008 that are flashing red right now. So in all this instability, it is a very good idea to protect your savings, to protect your IRA by diversifying into precious metals, especially gold. There are a lot of gold companies out there. Not all of them are kosher. Not all of them are responsible businesses. American Alternative Assets really is. And we're very, very proud to have them as a sponsor. We're very picky about our sponsors, and we only accept sponsors who have products that we either use or invest in ourselves. So I really encourage you to go to cloutgold.com, CLOUTGOLD.com, and get a free report explaining to you what the risks are of not diversifying into gold and silver. And I just want to note that when Brian and I started talking about investing in gold 5 years ago, when it first became clear that you could do that easily, if we'd put in $1,000 then, it would be 5,000 now. If we'd put in 10,000 then, it would be 50,000 now, and so on. So obviously you can't predict everything about the future, but gold there's a limited amount of it on the planet. And in a time when you can have your assets switched off if they're digital, like the truckers in Canada had their bank account switched off. People in Spain are having their bank account switched off. All of China is now on a social credit system. Your assets can be switched off. And Europe is pushing for central bank digital currency. Now is the time to diversify into gold.
Phone call with him that I never knew was going to be the end of it. It was about the election, obviously, and pointing out that, hey, man, there are statistical improbabilities here and things that don't add up and don't make sense. Like, this is not a kosher election with mail-in ballots and everything else. And, one of the things he said to me was, basically, I used to think you were smart. How could someone like you believe these sorts of things?
Oh my gosh.
But here's the kicker too. What I find talking to people in my orbit or prior orbit still is that a lot of this extreme radicalization, I'm sorry to say, comes from the women they married. And it's a really interesting thing, because I think that you do have, if you look at a lot of these protests, even what happened in Minneapolis, like a lot of these people who are kind of radical leftists, if you will, they're white women.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can speculate about that to some extent, but that's something that I've found as a common thread with a lot of these. For example, because of being public facing like I am now, and I've become more courageous since Charlie died, of course, I've had people reach out to me from my high school that follow me on Facebook, and privately they say, thank you for speaking out. thank you for doing what you do, you know, and they'll
Right.
say something like, you know, I don't have the courage to do it because they don't, you know, nobody wants to be attacked and hated, but I'll
Right.
take it. It's fine.
Right. Right.
Um, and so one of these people I talked to, you know, we just got in this conversation. I said, well, who do you still hang out with and spend time with from our high school? Because he still lives in Dallas, with where most of these people still live.
Hmm.
And one of his good friends, he said he lost, and it coincided with him marrying a very left wing woman who
Mm.
basically, you know, didn't want him hanging out with him anymore because he was right leaning.
Wow. Wow. That's horrible. So you're observing that young men, well, I'm going to call you young. Um, I guess what would you be, Gen Z?
No, no, no. I'm still. Give me some of these
Are
gens
you a
real quick.
millennial?
I'm a millennial. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Right,
I
right.
call
Sorry.
myself the millennial minister of truth.
Yeah.
What a Biden brain moment
It's a lot has happened this week. Um, you're saying millennial men. I also can't, it's hard for me to think of you as a millennial because you have a work ethic. I'm
right? I know.
sorry. I'm sorry, that was really mean. I take it back. I
No, it's
apologize.
not mean. It's true.
But you're saying men under, say
It's like
30 to
40.
40,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 42, 43 something. It's a big. AJ is, you know, our mutual friend too. He's a millennial, and I'm like, what?
I can't believe that. That's
He's
crazy.
barely in there though. You know, he's
Right,
like at the edge of it.
right. But what I was going to say, and this is an important cohort, right? The men in your observation maybe went through, tantrumy moments of saying, "Ugh, I used to think you were smart," or whatever. But
Yeah.
the real venom in the poisoning of the discourse in your observation has entered through marriages with completely poisonous left liberal women.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The worst of it, you know. I mean, you know, look. I mean, the my former best friend is the perfect example. You know, he married a woman that was very radical, far more radical, and certainly not level headed like he was. I mean, this guy's a physician. He's a doctor, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Obstetrician, actually,
Hmm.
and a very successful one today.
Hmm.
Um, but you know, I saw it because during COVID, I lived in California, for example, right? And so, you know, for 2 weeks, I bought the BS, right? Like, I remember I went to my mother in law's house. We were living in Orange County at the time, and she didn't live far away.
Hmm.
And it was like the first week of COVID, and we were just like tired of just being stuck in our homes. And so we're like, let's
Right.
hang out. And it was so stupid in retrospect. But I'm glad it happened because it's so perfect, especially
Hmm.
for me,
Hmm.
knowing my politics. Like, we went over there, like, masked up, wore gloves outside for a second. And like 10 minutes into spending time with each other, we all looked at each other and we're like, this is so stupid. We took it all off and we're like, whatever.
Right.
But you know, we went to get takeout because
Hmm.
California was locked down,
Right.
one of the worst states.
So bad.
So we drove to get pickup, takeout, and I had posted something on Facebook about, I don't know, just like my wife and I going to get takeout food and how, you know, liberating it was just to get out and whatever else. And this,
Murderer. Sorry.
yeah, no, correct instinct. Publicly, my best friend's wife admonished me in this long post for everyone to see about how my wife and I were irresponsible, basically killers.
Oh my
And that was where I started to see, like, this is going to be a problem, you know. And anyway, and then a few years later, you know,
God.
my
Wait, slow down.
yeah,
You can't just skip
yeah,
over this. This is
yeah,
a
yeah,
big dramatic moment.
yeah.
Your best friend didn't call you and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry. My wife is on a tear." Like he was okay with that?
Yeah, because this is the thing. This is about the generation of men too, right? They're a bunch of
Right.
cowards
You can
that,
say it. You can say the no, never
well,
mind me. You
they're
can't.
just
Right.
betas to their wives, you know,
Right.
and it's like,
What
um,
happened? You're
well, no,
you're in that.
I had to
What?
call him and I had a conversation with him about it, and it's kind of like, look, I mean, it's my wife, you know, like, what can I do, you know?
Oh my God.
So you know, so he took her side over mine and whatever else. I mean,
It's my wife. What can I do? Like married people are not supposed to have conversations about like loyalty and respect and civility to their best friends.
well, I got to be honest. No, yeah, your point is absolutely correct, but this was a scary person,
Okay, now
scary
I believe
radical
it.
leftist, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
um, whatever. You know, these
Okay.
guys were going to get divorced, and then they were doing in vitro, and they were about to sign divorce papers, and then the kid that she got pregnant, and so they decided to stay married. So he
Oh, what a
unfortunately didn't dodge a
nightmare.
bullet.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
God, all around. Oh, how awful.
yeah. But they called me Nazi, a Nazi. You know,
Wait, hold on. Your
yeah.
best friend's wife called you a Nazi?
Well, no, my I'm just kind of moving towards like to your original question about like what these people were saying to me and
Right,
everything else.
right.
And yeah, they were calling me.
People you knew called you a Nazi?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So perfect example, pretty specific. Um, I started going down this route of quote unquote activism, right, on our side, on this side, because of the COVID lockdowns. And like Gina Carano, I observed astutely, I would add, because I was proven correct, that the situation in California amongst left wing individuals and Democrats and their peers and neighbors was akin to the environment in Nazi Germany.
Mhm,
And and that was an absolutely true point. No one's talking about gas chambers
mhm,
and that sort of thing. We're talking about the hostility. And I was talking about how these masks, were signs of obedience. It was like
mhm,
the Star of David.
mhm,
You're supposed to show, compliance or whatever else.
mhm.
And it's teaching a young generation of children, of course, to be compliant to the government.
Totally, totally.
And so for posting that, that was kind of what did me in with all these people. I have never received so many antagonistic messages in my life.
Mhm,
People were using expletives in my inbox to say "f you," "f yourself," unfollowing me, and
mhm.
that's where some people publicly said "f you" or privately said "f you" and disappeared. Other people just disappeared altogether.
Yeah.
But the COVID stuff was what was kind of the final radicalizing element that I think created the
Mhm.
modern left we're seeing today.
Wow. Okay, so this book is an analysis of the extremism of the left and the connection of extremist leftist rhetoric to political violence. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
what are some other good examples? And why do you think, like, I don't mean to belittle the impact of Charlie Kirk's murder
Sure.
on you, but arguably, like, we don't know yet, it could have been one unhinged guy. There hasn't been, innocent till proven guilty.
Yep.
It could have been someone whose animus is something we can't know yet, right?
Sure.
Maybe they crossed paths in the past. Maybe, he has a grudge against Turning Point. Who knows, right?
Sure.
It so often the narrative that emerges at the point of a drama or even soon thereafter isn't the same as what emerges at trial after discovery. So what makes you so sure that radical leftist language led to the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Sure. Well, two things. One is I believe many of the elements that have been presented to us already from the FBI. Um, but the secondary thing, which I'll start with, is that um, this, if that's the case, which I believe, it's not shocking because you can go through a long list of incidents in this country in which right wing targets have been made and these attempts have been made. So you can look at
Like what? Can you give me some examples?
yeah, absolutely. So let's start with Rand Paul,
Mhm.
who had his ribs broken by a neighbor, who was a Democrat physician. And Rand
Whoa.
Paul was pretty clear about the political motivation of it. And, the media made light of the situation. They called it, some like lawn scuffle or whatever else about some leaves or something, which obviously is not the reality.
Oh my
So
God.
let's go from Rand Paul and we can look at the Bernie Sanders supporter who opened fire on the baseball team of congressional Republicans.
Oh, right.
So, and that was an obvious political linkage. And, you can look at obviously two really Trump assassination attempts.
Mhm.
I think that, there's still a lack of clarity about the young man that tried to kill him in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but it's pretty clear about the guy who was hiding out in the bushes at
Mhm.
his golf club,
Mhm.
where he was coming from, a kind of a pro-Ukrainian. I mean, he was a leftist,
Mhm.
and then I would move over to kind of members of specific individuals in the transgender community who, from Audrey Hale in Nashville at the Covenant shooting,
Mhm.
her manifesto, and this is not incendiary, this is fact. Her manifesto reads like Barack Obama speeches or Joe Biden speeches that have been given about anti-whiteness and CNN panels on race relations and everything else, targeting young Christian students at school. And then a week before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, you had another transgender individual who, of course, shot up through the windows of a church.
Mhm.
Kids sitting in the pews of the mass at
Mhm.
mass. Two kids were killed. And
Mhm.
again, you look at I'll call it a manifesto. It was kind of like a journal, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And some of it I think was online, like videos maybe. But those uh, uh, diaries made it very clear this person was aligned with the radical left. And they also hope to maybe take out like an Elon Musk or Donald Trump at some point as well. So
Mhm.
I just think there are so many, and those are just a few of the examples, but
Mhm.
there is so much evidence of that rhetoric leading to that
Mhm.
targeting.
Mhm.
And, Charlie Kirk was in the line of sight
Mhm.
of left wing activists and groups around this country who labeled his speech violence. He was designated basically like a hate group.
Mhm.
Um, and so, if it's true, right, that
Mhm.
the individual that has been apprehended and accused of killing Charlie Kirk,
Mhm.
well, this individual came from a conservative family, right, raised by
Mhm.
Mormons,
Mhm.
and was in a romantic relationship with a partner who was transgender. And his family said he had been radicalized, in kind of like recent years or a year. And he had expressed his disdain for Charlie Kirk. And so to me, it's not shocking or out of the ordinary
Mhm.
that somebody linked with a community that is so tightly bound to left-wing rhetoric that believes that people like me or Charlie Kirk or others that speak from a place of faith and truth,
Mhm.
that our words are violence and therefore, we can be dehumanized to the point that
Mhm.
you can kill us and basically just dismiss us as a clump of cells.
Mhm.
That totally makes sense to me.
Mhm. Wow. Well, you've definitely offered a pretty compelling and comprehensive list of left-leaning or left-wing violence against conservative targets. My mind was going, when you were speaking, and aligned with what Matthew Spears' mine was a question, his is a comment. His comment is, people prone to violence left or right have problems. They need help. Let's stop pointing fingers back and forth. You've got crazies on both sides. What else is new? So where just, I love you. I love your work. I think it's wonderful that this book is getting a very wide audience. These are debates we need to have. It would be wonderful if we had them between you and a left-leaning person or a liberal, leftist person who doesn't agree with you. That I hope to see that again in my lifetime. But I could arguably go through the last 10 or 15 years of American history and select out, I'm not going to say cherry pick because you're my friend, but select
Sure,
out
sure.
um, examples of right-wing crazy people or people with problems who target left-leaning events or activities. For example, I'm old enough to remember a lot of violence against abortion clinics, and sometimes that violence targeted or took out, people like, the secretary, or people parked outside, or, people not the actual doctor doing the abortion, but arguably, that person is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you could make the exact same argument for people targeting abortion clinics and causing violence, which is that in their view, they're just taking out an evil. These people are murderers. They're saving unborn babies' lives. It's not a crime. They have to be stopped, right? It's very similar reasoning. So, what do you say to Matthew Spears or me? I mean, look, I agree with you. Let me add one more example.
No, no, I
I
love
agree with
this.
you that
I
toxic
Yeah.
language for sure dehumanizes people. We've seen this in history. And once you dehumanize people, you can kill them or hurt them more easily. I would also say when you're talking about being called a Nazi and how, that's one step in the dehumanization that leads to violence against conservatives, there was a recent, very unpleasant and rather shocking to me set of discussions among people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, the guy at the Heritage Foundation, and they really did invoke horrible, hateful, anti-Semitic tropes. Soon after that, there was an upsurge of violence against Jews, bombings and stabbings. So, like, you could play this game forever, right? So, what would you say to that? I guess what I'm trying to say is, isn't this a toxicity in language and incivility problem rather than a left problem or a right problem?
I don't think so. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Matthew actually too for asking the question. I do address this in the book because this is the reality. So this is not a both sides situation. You could point out, probably find a couple examples out there of, so-called someone on the right. Let me do it this way. A lot of this has to do with propaganda. So a few years ago, to address Matthew's point, you had a guy named, I believe, Peyton Gendron, who shot up a supermarket in Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
He targeted Black Americans, and I believe he killed 10 Black individuals.
That's right.
And the media immediately rushed to label him right wing.
Sure.
Okay. That wasn't true for a couple of reasons. First off, he was an avowed eco-socialist who hated Fox News. The only thing that the left associated, and he talked about, I believe, replacement theory or something like that as well. Mm-hmm. Replacement theory, by the way, is not a right-wing conspiracy; it's a left-wing practice, and you're seeing that right now in this country with what they've been doing with illegal immigration. And it's not race-based for someone with common sense. It's not about their race. It just happens to be that these people are being imported from places that don't understand constitutional republic or our rights or have those appreciations, and they're coming here for welfare. And therefore, there's this unholy alliance between, like, a Somali community, for example.
I think I've got to jump in.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say 100% of people are coming here for welfare. I think you have to qualify that sentence.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that if you're an illegal immigrant coming here, you're coming here because it's a better place for you to be than wherever else you come from.
Totally agree.
And so my point is, these people are given welfare, and it's one of the incentives for bringing them here. If you compare immigrants, and then we'll go back to Matthew Spears, but if you compare immigrants, illegal immigrants in particular, especially over the last, 4, 10, longer than that, really, to the turn of the century, right? The early 1900s. And throughout our history, we've had immigration, right? But there wasn't a welfare state. Mm-hmm. So the difference is, you can read history books, which are so fascinating to me. And I speak Italian, so I love Italy, and I love, obviously, Italian immigrants too. Anybody in New York has to, love Italians. They even invented their own language that really isn't Italian there. But anyway, so these Italian immigrants would come here, and they'd come with nothing but, the clothes on their back, essentially. Mm-hmm. And they didn't speak English. And I love reading these stories and testimonies of the early Italian immigrants who would get whatever crummy apartment they could, lodging in New York City. And they, in one case, I read about a couple that spoke to each other only in broken English because they were so desperate to learn English and assimilate in this country. People came here strictly because they wanted to be American, and that meant something. Today, obviously, when you have a robust welfare state, like, the statistics out of the Somali community are incredible, because more than 70% of them, after being here 10 years, are still on welfare. So
can you just give me the headline of the point you're making right now?
Oh, yeah. That the immigration today is nothing like it used to be, because people aren't coming here because they want to be American. They're coming here because they just selfishly want to take advantage of this country in many ways, and they do take advantage of it, and it's not all their fault.
So just tell me how this relates to toxic speech on the left and violence on the left versus toxic speech and violence on the right?
Well, it doesn't. It was getting into replacement theory and Peyton Gendron. So back to Peyton Gendron.
Okay.
So the left labeled this guy right wing, and
I see. Right.
there's nothing right wing about him. You know, I'm supposedly right wing. I'm not racist. The Republican Party has no history of racism, so that's a false declaration. This guy had more in common with the left, with his eco-socialism and fascism and the rest, than anybody like me. But the ADL, for example, cooks the books to convince people that there is exclusively right. And by the way, this point that people are making, that we're making right now, that, oh, you know, Drew is, you know, saying unfairly that it only comes from the left exclusively. Joe Biden and the Democrats have been declaring that it only exclusively comes from the right for a long time. So I want to start.
That's not cool either.
No, it's not cool. But it's also not accurate to suggest that the violence in this country that we're seeing on the left in Minneapolis with BLM riots, with Antifa, there is no equivalent of that on the right. So I'm sure you can find a couple examples, but it's not institutional with the right. These are one-offs. And the reason it's also unfair is because if you're an actual conservative like Charlie Kirk or like me, your beliefs and system flows from a foundation of scripture and faith, the Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded upon. And so therefore, we do not condone these acts of violence. We believe in a transcendent power that actually restrains us from activity like this. And so anyway, so we have to talk about the ADL, because the Anti-Defamation League, which maybe once had a purpose and was good about, you know, trying to curb anti-Semitism in this country, you know, it's run by Jonathan Greenblatt, who's an Obama guy. And it's just a propaganda arm for them to then, you know, recycle their talking points and have something to point to claim that violence in this country is right wing. So the transgender killer Audrey Hale, for example, who was obviously an avowed leftist, and it was a politically motivated attack. The same thing with the transgender killer that shot up the students sitting in mass. That was also a politically motivated shooting. And these don't find their way into the ADL's reports of extremism in the country.
Interesting. I see what you're saying. So you're saying groups like the Anti-Defamation League tend to skew left now, and they, for their part, cherry pick examples of what is hate speech, what is a political extremism. I just do need to know, you're getting, I love my audience because they're very, very thoughtful. And I think our favorite thing is the idea of the golden rule, like, or I should say Kant's, the Kantian imperative that, you know, if I'm going to claim it for myself, I have to like be systematic and claim it for everyone else. And a lot of people are saying, well, as you see it yourself, you know, get over the labels and the toxic speech, the assumptions. We have to take a good look at ourselves to grow, including you, sir. And other people, there's one woman who is mad at me. Let's see. Radicalized is the word of choice nowadays, goes both ways. I remember when Naomi Wolf was a feminist, talk about radicalization. So Maria Luisa, I am still a feminist, but I do take their points. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I just want to elicit from you what's different. How can I put it? I agree with them that the issue is violence, you know, hate turning into dehumanization, turning into political violence. I don't agree with you. I think it's dangerous to conclude. In my experience, the left used to think they were innocent and that they couldn't do wrong. In every victim society I've ever known, when they had an ideology of, oh, we're being victimized, they think they cannot become an oppressor. It's a very dangerous mindset, because then the minute they get power, they become an oppressor and they don't see it. So I agree with Maria Luisa when she says this temptation to dehumanize and then target the other does go both ways. I do agree with that. I would very gently push back, well, firmly, Drew, and say, just because the right, you know, likes to think of itself as following Judeo-Christian values doesn't mean they can't turn into oppressors. Lots of Christian countries have, you know, murdered my people, fed them into, took their goods, exiled them. Look at Spain under Ferdinand and Isabella, right? Or I could name dozens of Christian countries. So Christianity itself doesn't guarantee that you're not going to fall prey to political violence. In fact, the Ku Klux Klan thought they were Christians, when they were lynching people in the 1920s. I mean, Christianity was used to justify slavery in the 19th century. But rather than give you a very
No,
hard
it's
time.
good. I mean, we can debate all these things. It's good. I mean, I enjoy it. I think it's good for the audience, and
What
it's
do you
good for me.
say? What do you say? Let's put it this way. So I'm going to agree with you that right now, the left has a monopoly on the dramatic political violence. But I'm not going to agree with you that political violence is a leftist problem and not a human problem.
Well, it's a human problem for sure,
Mhm.
but it happens in situations where you have a certain reigning ideology that leads people in that direction. And there's nothing about conservatism that leads in that direction. And people, I would beg
But how
people,
can you say that? How can you say that, Drew?
because I'm living in this world right now and I'm seeing what's happening in Minneapolis. I'm seeing BLM. I'm seeing Antifa. I'm seeing a target of President Trump. I'm seeing these assassination attempts, the
These
murder of Charlie Kirk.
all horrible. I agree.
But
And
where's the example of that happening from people like me
there
or people
have
on the
been
right?
years of violent attacks on abortion clinics. Years.
I mean, when was the last one, though? I mean, I
Well, that's
haven't
not an
seen.
answer. That's not a debating point. You're saying there's nothing in conservatism. Clearly, the
No, no,
record,
no. I'm not.
you know,
I'm talking about this moment in America that we're living in right now.
okay, yeah, you guys are pretty nice at this moment, but Tucker Carlson at Charlie Kirk's memorial basically invoked a millennia-old anti-Semitic trope and
Mhm.
whipped up hateful, Jews killed Christ, um, dog whistling, which was very clear to every Jew, right, who
Yeah.
knew any history. And there was a wave of violence against Jews. He calls himself a conservative.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. He can call himself that all day long, and he's not. And I'm with Dan Bongino on this, and I'm so glad he's back because he's saying, "Yeah, we're going to be gatekeepers because we built this movement, and we're gonna control this movement and keep this movement moving forward." I totally fundamentally reject Tucker Carlson. I used to put
Okay.
people on his show all day long, all the time. And there's a schism in MAGA right now and a
Mm,
competition to try and hijack this movement and make it
that's
something
true.
that it isn't.
That's
Tucker
true.
Carlson doesn't represent the Charlie Kirk conservatism or the Drew conservatism or the Dan Bongino conservatism. He doesn't
Mhm.
represent any of that. And here's the thing: conservatives reject anti-Semitism. This is one of the
Good.
most frustrating things that I've
Reject it
seen.
louder because it's a bad moment right now.
No, it's absolutely repulsive. And these people have no place in this movement. I mean, Nick Fuentes is not a conservative. He's not right leaning. There's all these people out there. What's the other guy's name? The comic Dave Smith. That
Mhm.
guy. Man, that guy's got a lot of, well, good. I'm glad you don't know who he is because he thinks that everyone knows who he is. Um, but all these people that haven't been a part of this movement, because look, I mean, people go off the rails everywhere. I mean, you can look. I mean, I look around me at the Christian community, and you're right. Christians have committed, terrible acts or don't behave in a certain way. That's true. But Christianity itself, if I sit there and I read scripture and everything else, there's Bible-based Christianity that is fundamental and true. And Charlie Kirk, to his credit, that was one of those things that became an important part of his life. So
Mhm.
Tucker Carlson pretends like the Old Testament is irrelevant because Jesus
Mhm.
Christ came. That's fundamentally wrong. So he can sit there and make that claim all day long. Tucker Carlson can platform people that tell you that, Adolf Hitler was actually the good guy in World War II. These people are
Mhm.
quote unquote historians. Does that mean that they're right simply because they're historians? No, they're fundamentally wrong.
Uh,
So I believe in
Okay.
objective morality. I mean, as
o-
well.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad to hear your full-throated, uh, rejection of that kind of what I would call incitement and, violent language from conservatives. Um, that's good. I would, I'm just going to restate that from the point of view of me and a lot
Yeah.
of people watching this, battle you've just described between MAGA, people on your side and Charlie Kirk's side and the Dan Bongino side and all the sane non-haters are not drowning, not challenging the haters and the evildoers loudly enough to make a difference. I mean, maybe you're doing all you can, but let me go back to your book and the
Yeah. Yeah.
subject of your book. Turning Point USA didn't disavow what Tucker Carlson said at Charlie Kirk's memorial.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, Turning Point USA is um, very challenged and in disarray right now. They're trying to do their best to put on a strong.
You're in PR. It takes 5 minutes to issue a statement.
No.
Yeah.
Look, Charlie Kirk's assassination was cutting the head off of the organization. Charlie Kirk was, I mean, look, TPUSA was Charlie Kirk, period. Okay. And the downside of that is they don't know what to do, and they don't have, and Charlie Kirk
I'm telling them, if anyone's watching this who has connections, issue a statement disavowing what Tucker Carlson said as hideous, violent anti-Semitism. And it probably paved the way for the Bondi Beach massacre. I wrote that essay. Why is this rocket science, Drew? They know what to do.
Yeah. Well, what I would make, let me make this point real quick, I guess, because this is the most inflammatory of the not inflammatory, but the most contested points to make. If you compare, let's compare like because I want people to understand that the left's ideology right now does pave the way for violence, and this is why I will continue to make the point that
how. Okay. I mean,
so
some crazy communists who are using crazy communist rhetoric. I agree with you, but
they're the leaders of the leaders of the Democrat Party. You've got. I mean, look what happened in Minneapolis. You don't have cooler heads in any leadership positions in the Democrat Party. Tim Walz is out there saying that we are at war with the federal government. You've got Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, who's saying get the F out ICE. And these people are fanning the flames. They want another BLM style riots. And what I'm sitting here saying is, the appropriate, responsible thing to do is to prevent situations like that from happening again. How do you prevent those situations? Well, don't encourage individuals and train individuals on trying to go and prevent ICE from doing their job. You can disagree with ICE all day long. You can hate ICE all day long, but you can, just like you can hate the IRS, because I feel like they're robbing us blind, with the taxation, but it's still the law, and they are there doing their jobs. And these Democrat leaders are promoting that. Look at Mamdani in New York. I think they want this guy to be their next Barack Obama. I think they want
for sure.
So my point is here's the point I'll make that I think that you'll appreciate and agree with, knowing
yes.
When we talk about Tucker Carlson and this stuff, maybe there aren't enough people being loud enough, et cetera. But there is an effort from people in this movement that have been here a long time who are fighting and calling these people out and saying this is wrong. I do not see that in the Democrat Party, right? Like we are totally vulnerable right now on the right from being hijacked and taken over by lunatics that are anti-Semites and everything else. But we recognize it, and we don't want that to happen.
Okay, good.
In the Democrat Party, there is no effort to push back on this. You have the governor Hochul of New York, who shows up to Mamdani's little inauguration, like clapping like a seal as he spouts communist talking points.
Right. I'll agree with you there. So I just want to call attention to something pretty creepy. This guy, David Hogue, look at his avatar, whatever it's called, 8647. Isn't that a threat? Isn't that communication of a threat?
Yeah. Isn't 8647, is that anti-Jewish or something? I don't know.
No, I think it means to 86. Like
yeah. That's right. He wants to kill Donald Trump. That's right. That comes from James Comey.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So I'm just going to say I don't support or platform threats of violence. Communication of a threat is illegal. It's not First Amendment protected speech. So David Hogue, I'm going to hide this, but also I'm going to let Facebook know that you're communicating threats on my platform. You can't do that. And it's a very dangerous thing to do. And I think I would agree with this shows, even though I'm arguing with Drew, this shows the importance of his book and the importance of this conversation, because you feel either you're a bot or a troll or a real person, but for whatever reason, you think it's okay to threaten the president of the United States. And I'm also going to notice Drew, which I think you should take as a compliment,
Sure.
that a lot of a ton of critical comments we're getting are kind of coming in a wave. And in my experience, that is an organized bot or troll attack. So you are onto something. And, whoever runs the left discourse may be noticing, because I don't usually get this kind of wave of uh, bot and troll uprising, unless there's something really relevant, like we got it last time with the rollout of 6G, which is really interesting. So if there's something like we're really over the target, we tend to get this. So Marty Edelson says ICE is violating the law. We haven't, I don't really want to go into that rabbit hole, but I did want to call up what Daniel Kahawai says. And I think this is the Daniel Kahawai who used to be my friend on Facebook, in which case, greetings to you. You used to send me wonderful quotes from the Bible, if this is the same person. And he says, Minnesota is using any means necessary so that the fraud is ignored, which is pretty obvious. And what would you say to that? Do you think that money is a...
Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf. I want to talk about microplastics. Microplastics are infiltrating every aspect of our lives. Some studies estimate that we now consume a credit card's worth of plastic every day through our food, water, and even in the air that we breathe. One study found plastic particles in 100% of human living samples. Nobody is safe from exposure, and it gets worse. These particles don't just sit inertly in your body. They cross the gut lining and leach into your blood, and they disrupt everything. They alter the gut bacteria, suppress immune response, and raise the risk of neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic disorders, and even cancer. Some plastic toxins, such as BPH and phthalates, mimic hormones, interfering with fertility and even damaging DNA. Even if you eat clean and avoid processed foods, you can't opt out. But your gut can help you fight back. Kimchi 1 from Brightcore Nutrition is a potent ally in this toxic world. Created with over 900 probiotic strains unique to kimchi, it's proven to break down BPA, helping you detox from the inside out. It doesn't just support digestion. It protects cells, your brain, your hormones, and your future. Your body was never designed to handle plastic, but your gut can protect you if you give it the right tools. Get 25% off this incredible product by using the code WOLF at mybrightcore.com/wolf, or even better, call my friends at Brightcore and get 50% off plus free shipping. That's 888-575-4996. You've got to protect yourself. Thank you.
And Matthew Spears says, I ain't no bot, just bored on Saturday, lol. And I'm not going to, you say it's not a threat, but it's a threat. ICE is not allowed to murder citizens. And that is my friend Daniel. So what would you say to kind of this resistance that you're getting, that ICE has gone too far, they're murdering citizens, that it's legitimate to push back against fascists like you?
Well, this is the thing about the left's ideology today. They can justify any behavior whatsoever. The ends justifies the means. And this is the point of the language. If I'm a fascist, if Charlie Kirk's a fascist, if his speech is violence, then, you're saving the country. I think that the modern left today, Naomi, a lot of these people that are the radicals, of course, they view themselves like superheroes in this fictional story they've spun in their mind. And so superheroes need a villain. And so these people think they're saving the day, right? They're going to go and show up and organize and protest, and they're going to park their cars blocking ICE agents. They're not even going to listen to ICE agents. They're not going to comply with federal officers who have their guns drawn. And this is a dangerous mentality that leads to friction and a situation that you don't want. And so, you know, we live in a world where the facts don't even matter. So you could compare like how the left responded to Ashley Babbitt's murder on January 6th to the, the fatal shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis and learn a lot about the mentality of the left. So I would point this out, you know, on January 6th, Lieutenant Michael Burr, and look, you can watch the video of this. It's horrible. You know, protesters are breaking the glass of the Capitol in that moment. And Lieutenant Michael Byrd has his gun drawn in a corner, and Ashley Babbitt appears to try to climb through the window of the Capitol, and he opens fire and shoots her and kills her. And she was unarmed. She was 36 years old, a female Air Force veteran. Okay. And Lieutenant Byrd was promoted after that, and he was hailed a hero. He went on with Lester Holt, who I used to know actually. And, you know, he talked about how, you know, he saved so many lives that day by taking that shot and so on and so forth. But the point is, the left viewed that action through the prism of, okay, Lieutenant Byrd is a hero and Ashley Babbitt is, you know, the villain in that situation and a criminal. And they didn't shed a tear for her. Now you fast forward almost 6 years from January 6th, 2021 to January 7th, 2026. And you have an ICE agent who fatally shoots, you know, a protester in that situation. And what was the immediate reaction from the left? It was that this ICE agent, regardless of what the facts are and what they're proven to be, this ICE agent is de facto a villain. He's a murderer. He's a killer. And and Renee is just an innocent victim. And the prism it's basically, the question is simply, okay, was this person on my team? Right.
I hear you. And no one should be asking questions like that. I'm just going to, again, you know, push back. I feel guilty because I like you so
it's
much,
good.
but you know, this is how we roll. Like two things. You just used January 6th, which I know there are a million probably staged by Nancy Pelosi, you know, all of that, but also lots and lots and lots of conservatives, you know, stormed the Capitol. They did. Maybe they didn't commit the violence they were accused of. Maybe their intentions were good. They stormed the Capitol. They did. So you're saying nothing in conservatism, you know, lends itself to violence. To me, that is such historically, when a group of people, you know, black shirts, brown shirts, any militia storm the parliament or storm where the parliamentary processes are happening, that is a complete trampling of civil society and the rule of law. So I'm granting all the weirdnesses and stagedness and messed upness and entrapment of January 6th. Hundreds of people should have just stayed outside and read the Constitution and not stormed the Capitol. So I disagree that there's something innate about conservatism that keeps you ever from being violent. That was violent, and it wasn't, you know, as a woman, I will just say, when the rule of law is trampled, it's women and children who are most at risk. So number one. Number two, you're not right about abortion clinic violence. This is a report from the National Abortion Federation, and it says 3 years post-Dobbs, meaning the decision that returned abortion restrictions to the states, abortion providers experience high levels of violence and disruption. And these are the key findings from this year's report: 621 cases of trespassing, 777 obstructions, 296 death threats or threats of harm, 37 cases of stalking, 38 cases of assault and battery, 3 arsons, 3 attempted arsons, and 12 bomb threats. So those are conservatives. So what do you say to that? Don't believe that conservatism keeps you peaceful.
I would push back on that a little bit, because I have too much familiarity with the way like the ADL operates to inflate statistics and not be completely transparent with how they get there. I know that, but there is a vested interest in protecting these narratives out there that we're supposed to believe. And I would argue that, you know, if there's a system out there, I would love to see, how many pro-life centers or whatever else, experience the same thing.
Whataboutery is not an answer. I'm sorry.
No. It's not whataboutery. But if we're gonna say, if we're going to sit here and pretend that, both sides are equivalent in the violence.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying this happened.
My argument is not that it's impossible for someone on the so-called right to become violent. I'm just saying it's not built into the ideology. It's an exception rather than the rule, is what I'm trying to say.
How is it not? If I'm looking at 12 bomb threats just in 2023 to 2024, and the ideology of the pro-life branch of conservatism is specifically, these people are murdering babies. We have to bomb the clinic to save the babies. They say that. They say, save the babies, save lives.
I don't know. I don't know any of these people. Nobody that I know that's a conservative thinks that way or would act that way. And, I would just say, like, I do think that numbers matter to some extent, because if we're going to look at that statistic, and it's obviously that shouldn't happen. I don't support that, obviously. But if you're saying there's 12 bomb threats, I would say, okay, well, how many bomb threats did TPUSA headquarters get after Charlie Kirk's death? It was probably 60 times that.
Not an answer. Because look, Drew, respectfully, I love you so much.
Sure.
If you create a straw man, which is in the nature of conservatism is that it's not violent, people are going to find the violence in conservatism, and that's good logic, right? There's nothing about conservatism, I would say, that inoculates you from the human condition of being subjected to craziness, mental illness, violence. And there are some aspects of conservatism that have been violent, for sure.
Well, let me ask this question. It's kind of like a parallel to get into some of this. Like, when you look at, radical Islamist terrorism, right, in this modern century, is there any comparison with any other religion out there that's committing violent acts on that scale globally? Or is it unique to, or is it unique to this
century? No, but I would again say you're rhetorically shifting the argument we're having.
No. It's to make a strong point, because, obviously things shift over time. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is inoculated from, violence or being hijacked or being usurped and being abused and exploited and everything else. That's absolutely true. But I think that it's irresponsible not to recognize the reality of this specific moment. I mean, we talk about this is not about whataboutism. This is not whataboutism. I
agree with you there. I agree with you there. Mm-hmm.
After the Dobbs decision was leaked, to give another example, you had a man who since has come out as transgender, who traveled from California to the East Coast to Maryland, and he was on his way to kill Justice Kavanaugh and his family. And thankfully it didn't happen. He ended up turning himself in, actually. But he said that, he thought, he was going to, save, prevent this from happening, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, et cetera, by undertaking this action. And my point is I point out all these very specific, assassination attempts that most of them have failed, except for Charlie Kirk, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot find anything close to that coming from the conservative movement. And I think that has to be recognized. There is something about the ideology of the left, just like there was something with the ideology within radical Islam that is fueling this. And
all right, sorry, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's good. You have something that's going to be good to say that will
not really. I was just going to say, can you give us 5 more minutes? We've come to the end of our time, but I want to end on a going back to the substance of your book rather than this argument that we could have like
6 hours,
like
forever, the rest of our lives.
Forever, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let's go to the rest of the book.
Yeah.
In addition to making the case that you're making is that there's something about this moment and the left in America that's violent, and illustrating that. What are the other insights you want us to be sure to, or arguments that you want us to be sure to know about in our time together before we?
Sure. Yeah. Look, it's a message of hope at the end. I mean, it's about my own personal transformation after Charlie Kirk's death. It's very deeply spiritual from a Christian perspective, very theological. And, it talks about one of Charlie's great legacies to me is, he represented American exceptionalism, because Charlie Kirk wasn't always Charlie Kirk. He became Charlie Kirk through devotion to himself, to studying, right? He'd go on these college campuses and he practiced for those moments and studied for those moments and debates like an athlete would train for, the NBA or something like that. And, each of us has an obligation, I think, to look at where we are in our lives right now and ask what more we can be and what more we can do. We shouldn't settle for where we are today.
Beautiful. Why do you think, as a young, father and husband and, professional, why do you think Charlie Kirk's murder made such an impression on you?
I think that it was because primarily, in a sense, this isn't about being self-aggrandizing. I don't think I'm important. Okay. But I just, like, that could have been me. If I had had the courage to go out there like him and go to these college campuses and debate people, that could have been a lot of people in this country. And of course, as I sat at the breakfast table with my family the morning after he was killed, I broke down in tears because I had my 2 kids there with me and my wife, and I recognized that that was taken from his family. And then there was the fact that I saw in Charlie what I think I could be. Not that I'm going to become Charlie Kirk, but those experiences that I detailed in the beginning of this about all of my friends turning their back on me and condemning me. I had residual fear, I guess, from that, because it hurt. It hurt. And I think that you can't let that govern your life. You have to believe in, you have to have conviction for your beliefs and be willing to go out there and fearlessly declare them and expect that people are going to attack you like they've been attacking. Some people have attacked us on here today or whatever else. And that's fine. Like, this public discourse is like a tribute, to Charlie almost, because this is what it's about, getting these views out there. And so I think that I saw in Charlie what I wanted to be and what was holding me back, because I think that a lot of people in your audience, myself included in the past, we have a lot of these components in us, and we're kind of sabotaging ourselves from reaching our full potential because of fear. And oddly, after he was killed, that fear vanished.
Wow.
And now I want to go out there with that courage and be completely me. I don't want to hold back and change because to fit someone's view or insulate myself from someone's attacks, because you're not going to ever make everyone happy. Not everyone is going to agree with you. So, that was the big thing for me. And where do we go from here? How do we honor his legacy and defend that legacy?
Right. Well, in our last few minutes, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. In our last couple of minutes, please tell me, what journey has the book had? I know you've had some bumps on Amazon.
Yeah, so I think it was released on December 9th, or that's when my publisher tried to release the book, and it was stymied. It could have been a lot of things. There were a lot of people out there that did exploit Charlie Kirk's death, and I think that Amazon was maybe really trying to, prevent certain Charlie Kirk books from coming out. My book also coincidentally came out on the same day as Charlie's last book. That wasn't obviously on purpose. I didn't even know that they were going to, get that book rushed out. And then it kept going through these periods of censorship where, the book, some copies would sell so that it would start to move up the ranks, which obviously is important because you get visibility on Amazon and that leads to more awareness. And then they would shut it down by saying, we can't ship to your address. And that happened. I lost count. I lost count at 5 times. And, and then as of this week, I guess, like, now that hasn't been happening, and it rose through the rankings, and, has done really well. Matthew Spears, I really appreciate. I think no one deserves to die like that. And this is my optimism and hope for, where we are as a country, because Matthew disagrees with me on so many things, I'm sure. And he probably agrees with me on a lot of things too. And I don't hate Matthew, Naomi. I don't hate anybody who would disagree with me.
He's giving you tons of really good coaching advice in the comments that I'll share with you later. But and like keep going, bud. We're on your sides.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like you come out here and do this stuff, and everyone's gonna have some kind of what do you call it, like armchair,
Opinion.
suggestions or whatever else. Like I know how to do my thing and whatever else, and I don't, whatever.
No, he's just being really nice. He's just generally being really nice, and yes, he either agrees or disagrees, but the bottom line is we're Americans, and he wants to work.
Well, and here's the thing. I now relish the opportunity to have these debates, whereas before I would have been a little bit apprehensive, right? Like it's easy to go in a friendly environment, and this is why I love this, Naomi. We should do this again too, but like, it's easy to go on these friendly environments. That's what I realized about myself. I'm not like timid. I've written books and I have a podcast and go on shows, but to do this kind of thing, a lot of people don't want to do because it makes them uncomfortable. And that's because they don't have conviction and they haven't studied enough their positions. So you and I may never agree on a certain subject.
Right.
And the object isn't necessarily to change each other's minds. It's just to kind of get it out there. And maybe we learn from each other. But if you can't debate, it means that you haven't studied enough. Right.
Right. Totally. We're also in a world, and I hope you address this in your book, and maybe if not, maybe you'll address it in other interviews, but the algorithm makes the echo chamber like more and more of a thing. So we don't get a chance to hear other people's point of view, let alone to have a civil dialogue with them. But yes, Matthew's awesome. So people are asking for the website, and they want to know how to get the book, because of course you're probably going to sell a lot more books by our having a pitched battle.
It's an important book, I promise, and it's
I
like,
believe it. I can't wait to read it all the way through. I'm excited about it.
I know you have to come back on here with you'll have like 100 pages printed out of debate questions, and pushbacks, which I would love. But honestly, get on Amazon now. They still take like 3 weeks to get it to you. It's available at Target, Walmart, places like that online too. But I would recommend getting on Amazon now for Christ and Country, the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. Yeah, Amazon's great.
You guys, let me echo that and validate what he just said. We want to, whether you agree or disagree with everything that Drew brought up, I will vouch for him as an author. He brings up really important content, and it's an important subject. We've got to talk about it. And if his book makes you want to argue, argue and like create a situation in which you can go have a debate with someone you disagree with and go have coffee and hash it out with them, because our country is going to fly apart at the seams if we don't. So I want to really thank Drew Allen. The book is For Christ and Country, the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. You need to buy it on Amazon, because that's how it goes up the bestseller list right now. And that's very important for a book that's recently released, because if it goes up the bestseller lists, it gets more visibility and more promotion. Very, very important, especially in times of censorship by the legacy media. I'm sure they're not calling you, and they should, right? So it's up to us. So buy this book, read it. If you can't afford to buy it, times are tough, go to the library and ask them to order it. That's still good for the book. And you may not know this, it's very important. Your library legally is obligated to order any book you tell them to, with not inappropriate books, but any book you tell them to, or that you ask them to. So we need to let you go. We've kept you over time, but thank you, Drew Allen, For Christ and Country. Thanks for coming on Outspoken. I am grateful to you. And I'm really grateful to you also for like having a good old American, argument with me.
I wish
our audience.
I wish that we could all get in a time machine. I think this would actually fix the country and go a long way. If we could go to these, the ratification of the Constitution and the writing of that and the Federalist Papers and the debate between all of the founding fathers, like it was so vicious and it was so profoundly important that it happened.
So important. Yeah.
And man, I love you to death, Naomi. Like, this is amazing. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, my friend. So I am going to gently remove you from the stage so I can thank our sponsor. But thank you, you guys. Don't forget to go buy the book and do it right now. And I will say goodbye to you. And now I will thank our sponsor. You guys, you don't get debates like this and discussions like this. You don't get them on NPR. You don't get them on CNN. you get them here on Outspoken. And I'm really excited to tell you that we are in the top 100 or 200 to 250 podcasts in 12 countries around the world, including in, countries that can really use a lot of open debate, like Indonesia, Russia, South Africa, to my amazement, Pakistan, and also, the formerly free countries of Australia and Canada and the United Kingdom. So, and in the top 225 in the United States for news commentary. So it takes a lot of work and a team to produce this. So please support us. We need your help. If you can possibly afford to donate or subscribe, go over to Outspoken. It's $70 a year. It's on Substack. Or if you can afford $3.99 a month, go over to Daily Clout and you can make a one-time donation there as well. It's really critical. And the other thing I want to say is you need to diversify your assets. You need to diversify your savings. Things are so unstable. What Drew brought up is really right. Look at what's happening in New York. Zohran Mamdani's a new tenant moderator, whatever, tenant official, wants to have the state seize property. And that's not going to be a one-off. If they can do it in New York, they can do it in Seattle, they can do it in Chicago, they can do it in Boston. And we're moving into a time where even real estate isn't stable. And we're certainly with central bank digital currency, even the dollar isn't stable. And with the kinds of fluctuations that we're seeing with alliances in the BRICS countries, where they're trying to de-dollarize the world, the dollar is less and less stable. And you see, of course, that the dollar does not keep pace with expenses, with inflation. So the value of your IRA tends to go down and down over time. So you really need a diversified portfolio. No one can see the future, but I feel, and Brian feels too, much more confident and secure about our futures, knowing that we've opened an account with American alternative assets. And so we are diversified into gold and silver, precious metals. We often talk about the fact that we first started being aware that you could invest in gold 5 years ago, at the start of the pandemic. We were too lazy to do anything about it. 5 years later, if we had, our investment would have nearly quintupled. If we'd put in 2,000, it would be worth 10,000 almost. So don't make the same mistake that we made. We now have an account with American alternative assets. You want to diversify. Right now, millionaires and billionaires, some of the smartest players, are buying up reserves of gold. China is buying up reserves of gold. Sovereign banks are buying up reserves of gold. There's a run on gold, and there's a prediction by American alternative assets that gold will reach $10,000. And if you look at a chart, it's just, you can't predict the future, but gold has been on a tear for a long time. And there's an argument that silver, too, is important to invest in, especially in, God forbid, a crisis or a situation in which you need to be able to kind of, barter with smaller amounts of precious metals. Now that real estate is being targeted, which used to be something you could really be sure held value, it's more important than ever to diversify into gold. So there are a lot of questions you'll have, and there are a lot of shady operators in the precious metal space. We are so proud of American alternative assets. They have a really good reputation, very respected. They've been around a while, and they will answer all of your questions. And they'll also send you a free brochure about gold reaching $10,000. So go ahead and call their number, or or look up cloutgold.com, cloutgold.com. That's cloutgold.com. And go ahead and ask for that free brochure, and you'll get a call, and they will walk you through all the ways that you can open an account to put some or all of your retirement in gold and silver. There's only so much gold and silver in the world. They're not making more of it. And it's very, very, very important. Really, I'm really urging you to diversify in such an unstable time as we're in now. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you very soon.